Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to talk about the Thousandfold Thought, chapters 5 through chapter 8. And we are here today with Daniel and Katerina. Daniel, do you want to kick us off with an introduction?
Hi, I'm Daniel. I have read the second Apocalypse a couple times, so I'm a little further along than these guys. But it's good to have people through various degrees of the series joining along for a conversation.
Yep. And I'm Katerina. This is my second time reading The Prince of Nothing, and I've read a little bit of the Aspect Emperor series, and I'm very excited to be back and to be talking about these chapters because these have been some of my favorites. I can't wait to get into them.
Oh, nice. Just want to mention it's my first time reading it, so I'm very thankful that I have these two to help me along in my journey. And for next week, we will be reading chapters 9 through 13. So we will get into. I made a prediction a while back that we would not make it to Shime. So, and it looks like we will, or somebody will, because there's the last few chapters are named Shime. I think we decided we pronounce it Time, but instead we're going to say Shime. So that's so anyway. We'll be getting into Shime at least a little bit for next week. So if you're reading along, we will stop at chapter 14. So so these first couple chapters, I was a little bit confused. And I also got some other predictions wrong on these first couple chapters. But what did you both think of these chapters?
Well, as I said, um, I mean these chapters, especially is it 5 and 7, the two chapters set at Jokta, uh, are both centered around two of my favorite characters in the series. So to see them come head to head was very, I mean, heartbreaking on one hand, but also very fulfilling. Because you have, I mean, you have Confess and you have New York, these two great minds, two great generals who are, in some regards, very similar but also very different, trying to outwit each other. And I don't know if you made any, like, if you had any guesses about how the situation was going to turn out, but I thought there was so much tension in these two chapters, um, on a person level between the two characters, and then just in like the larger scope of things. You don't know, are the Nans who are going to escape? Is New York going to kill Confis, decimate the Nantor? So there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of things that we'll probably talk about in a while, that might affect these characters long term, perhaps, that happened.
And I thought that it was a good little section. Probably better than the section before, but still not a lot has happened. I guess it's no like recapping. They're all moving forward now, but and a lot did kind of happen. But
Yeah, we are moving forward, and so we did find out a lot. I think in chapter 8, especially, had a lot that we found out that was new, a lot of information, and so yeah, we are moving forward, but it's um, the whenever I see Noir, whenever I read Weeper, I always I always laugh now just because we talked about it so much. But um, yeah, I think so. The the interactions between Confis and Noir were that was I was a little bit confused on what exactly was happening because it were we changing like different timelines? Were we bouncing back and forth, or was that just my misreading it?
I, I feel like there was like the showdown with Kellis, right? At the beginning.
Yeah, we talked
What?
about this last week.
And then this was just like the execution of that. So all of his soldiers got marched off, and I think it said 1/5 of them remained with the
Holy War.
Yeah, with the Holy War. And so then Nair goes off with him to await the ship that's supposed to take Hickory away from the Holy War, so he can't taint it anymore. And
But Confus was expecting that, so he made a plan, which involved basically what happened, if I remember correctly, is that Confus was able to get a word to his uncle, who, instead of sending empty ships to pick up Confus and transport him back to Momem, sent ships from Momem with soldiers to reinforce Confus's troops, and so that he could, with those troops, he could betray the Holy War and destroy or somehow defeat Kellis later. But in order to do that, he first has to escape from his internment at Jokta, and Neo has been put in charge to watch or make sure that Confus stays prisoner in Jokta and then leaves with the fleet, which doesn't happen, obviously. And that is happening concurrently with the Kami and Esmenet chapters, more or less anyway. It's just that the Nansor and Confus and Neor have parted ways with the Holy War.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little bit confused there with what like when things were happening. But so then Noir realizes that Kella sent him to be a victim. So he set him up. That's where I was. What the motivation was to do that. That's another thing that I was a little bit lost on.
At first, Kella says that he sends Proyas to tell Nair to kill Confus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time he's in Jokta, he's thinking that he's been sent by the Dunyan to do something, and it's got to be a trap. So he's just withholding doing it. All while Confus is plotting his escape with the Padrija, and I guess he somehow's got some Imperial Psych. He gets another one after, I think, the Grandmaster, after his initial one gets killed by Nair.
Yeah, he manages to somehow smuggle the Grandmaster of the Imperial Sake into the city.
I assume the tunnel's just been running the whole time. That's how he was able to get out and meet with the Padrija, and how he's been able to just plot the whole thing. But I don't know for certain, I guess.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, so Nayor initially assumes that he's just there to assassinate Confus, but then he's having second thoughts exactly because it was Kellis's wish. So of course he's going to be suspicious.
So
And
it's
then
still indeterminate whether it is Kellis's wish or not, or whether Nair's ignorance just is about to get him killed.
Yeah, but then he's also outnumbered by the Nansor. Like he only has a couple of hundred men compared to probably several thousand Nansor soldiers that Confus has at his disposal. So it's also possible that maybe, or that's something that Neo was thinking, that maybe just Callus sent him to die by Compass's hand. But then at the end of the chapter, it sort of seems like maybe the whole plan was that Neo gets captured by Compass. But I don't know if that the conclusion that Neo makes is actually accurate. I think maybe my interpretation of that whole dynamic, the whole back and forth, is that you can see that Neo and Callus really got under Compass's skin. Like he is, at some point, he is really shaken and loses his, not just his confidence, but like concentration. Like it seems like he's slipping. Like he's not this. Like he always was this like great intellect, and it seems like he's starting to miss things, and a part of it is because he has this obsession with Neo. So maybe that's something that Callus anticipated, and maybe he sent Neo with Compass because it would sort of sabotage Compass and his plan and his self control, or at least his focus. That's my theory, but it's hard to tell with Callus.
It was crazy seeing Compass come out of that meeting with Callus after he just got completely put down, and he was so shaken, but it was such a brief moment, and then he's like, oh yeah, oh my god, I forgot, oh my god, why would I be sad? And then he ends up like turning everything around as though it's like a favor to him. Callus helped me cull the weak members from my tribe. Now we're stronger. God's helping me.
Yeah, he says something about that he can ignore the facts, that all that matters to him is that he believes something to be true, and as long as he gets his way, he gets the results, the things he wants, then the reality doesn't really matter. It did remind me quite a bit of something that Sirius did quite often when he would like no matter what happened, he would always somehow make himself believe that the situation was favorable for him, or that he was the sort of hero of the story, or the victim. Like always somehow managed to put himself in the good light. I don't know if that's a curse of the Nancer Empress, or that's just like a Ikiri trait that gets triggered when you ascend the throne. But I got the impression that maybe Compass was sort of sliding into the path that we know Sirius took. I don't know. Probably hard to say at this point, but that's the impression I got.
I just thought it was interesting how he could go from being the most down point in his life to all of a sudden thinking that he's just the coolest person in the world again. So fast. But it makes sense. That's also an Ikari trait, I think. You just can do that.
I mean, it can be very convenient, especially if you need to be ruthless. And don't want to get doubt and embarrassment. Claudia, wait, sorry, my cat's just jumped onto the table. It's very distracting. I hope he. Oh god, sorry.
Misbehaving.
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't knock out the computer. That would be problematic. No, we're good.
Okay. So speaking of Sirius, it looks like he was killed off page. Is the impression I have, or at least because they talk about him in that he was killed, right? But we
Well,
don't see it. But we see leading up to the moment. We don't actually see him die.
no, but I mean, his neck got snapped in the last moment, so that's close to dying for me.
Yeah, I forgot the thing I said, but it was something gross. Something about like meat popping out of his neck.
Oh, that's right.
But I wasn't sure if it was done in public or private. If it was done in private, it could be just a transferal of personship to the Skin Spy, but that ended up not being the case.
That did not even occur to me that they could just replace Sirius. But that's a very good point. But they didn't for some reason. Actually, I'm actually curious to why. Like why would you kill Sirius if you don't like? Why would the concept kill Sirius if they also want Conphus dead?
I think they're just trying to ensure the Holy War succeeds, and they thought that that was one way to do it. But
So just
they also
the
want
plan is to
Conphus dead because that's
yeah.
also going to help. But that's one thing Nair won't do. It's pretty crazy the alignments that everyone has going on because Kellis also wants Conphus dead, just like the consult currently does, and who's on whose side really in the end. Conphus is on the Padrija's side, so he's like on the side of the Phantom, kind of, but not really, just to suit his own ends. There's a lot of mystery going on. I don't know if we're going to be able to wrap it up in another 300 pages.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's a good point. If you kill all the Icuries, then there is no successor to the throne. So what's probably going to happen is a civil war. So then the Ninsur would probably not be able to march to Shaima and to stop Callus, or not, yeah, stop Callus from killing Moangus, which we don't even know if that's his plan anymore, or if it ever was the plan. It's just getting more and more confusing and entangled.
Let's hear about some of those wrong predictions now, Steve.
So one of them was, like I mentioned, the Shimei stuff. Someone's going to make it there because I predicted they wouldn't make it there at all. So someone's going to make it because the last few chapters are named Shimei. So the other one was that I thought Akamian was jealous or envious of Esmenet because of what she was achieving. She was learning to read and she was close to the Callus. So I thought that there was some kind of jealousy or envy going on there, but I think it was more admiration than anything else because he seemed happy for her that she was improving and she was, even though he's missing her and he's having regrets, he's still happy that she's improving and she's bettering herself, I guess. And she also is starting to realize how much of a burden Akamian carries and what he has to go through, and that he is strong, even if he's not the best spy in the world, and he's a little, he's
Reaper.
probably not. Yeah, he's not physically imposing, but he has a big, yeah, he has he carries a lot, and he goes he struggles with a lot, and he has a lot to bear. So those are the things that I got totally wrong.
Yeah, those are both good bits of understanding to have. The part where he's like, all she ever was like a pretty weed with me, and now she's grown into a bright flower that I could never hold or something.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, understanding that they're separate, but he understands it less. Obviously, he tried to kiss her and hold her, and so it's just harder to let go for him. But that kind of maybe makes sense now because you better understand what he dreams about, since Essinet finally understood what he dreams about.
I can't help think what would have happened if a Kamian had taught Esmenet to read. Because she learns about all these things. She learns about the apocalypse from reading the sagas. But then a Kamian, like, she only learned to read thanks to Kellis. So if she had read the sagas while she was with the Kamian, or if maybe he had read her the sagas, maybe things could have been very different. And she would have had a lot more understanding. But there was a nice juxtaposition between the two of them, realizing that maybe they weren't enough for each other, or they didn't try hard enough to be there for each other and to be understanding of each other's struggles.
I do wonder, to that point, I do wonder if Akamian ever, if it ever occurred to him to teach her how to read, or to, I wonder if that ever was a motivation for him, the way it was for Kellis. And Kellis's motivations may not be for her, for Esmond, and it may be for another goal, but I wonder if Akamian ever even considered that, or if she was just who she was. It was just, she was there, and that's what she was to him, and he never really saw her potential, I guess.
I think it goes back to like his duties as a mandate schoolman. He just can never be in a place for too long. And I kind of think teaching the woman to read is illegal.
I don't know. It's definitely not common. I don't know if there are many women. Well, I mean, there are probably not even many just people in general who can read, but I imagine the number of women who can even smaller.
It goes back to when Mayor's like, I said send word. What's this chicken scratch?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was totally wrong with that. But that was kind of nice though, and I do appreciate that the connection they had a little bit more now that I see the way Kellis looks at her, or I'm sorry, the way Akamian looks at her now, that she's, she's, I guess she's more enlightened, or she's more powerful. She has some clout now. So I do think it's nice to see that he was, even though he is missing her and he's lusting over her, but it seems genuine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have doubt that Akamian loved or loves Esmenet. It's just that he was a little bit too obsessed with himself and with his own problems, and never really invested himself much into her own life. Like, he kind of always expected her to be there for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much expected her to be there for him. I don't know how much he was there for her, because I mean, she, like, all the time, she was always the one who was comforting him when he was waking up from his nightmares. He was always the one who was getting jealous of her customers or of her in general, and I don't think it necessarily detracts from his feelings. It's just that there were some imbalances in that relationship. And I feel like maybe Esmenet was giving a little bit more than he was. But then she also done some, she did lie to him, or at least not tell him about certain things that she probably should have. And there are definitely some moments where she does not think nice things about him, or even despises him a little bit, or mocks him. like she's not perfect either. But it was. I think there was. I think it's fair to say there was a little bit of a imbalance in giving in that relationship, and Callus just gave her more, even if his intentions are not pure. He helped her realize some of her potential, which is not necessarily something that a Kamian offered.
At some point, it seemed like he might have realized it, but it was far too late by that point. He had known her for years and years and years, and never thought that he could betray his school and have a, what did he call her, a camp wife, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it seemed like more and more as he approached going to the Seriatic library, he was opening up more to her and becoming more appreciative. And then after thoughts of her held him through torture, then he felt even more strongly, and by that time it was just far too late.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but he did decide to betray his school for Callus.
Yeah. I know, I enjoy Callus because he's a fascinating character, but I think Espinette is really becoming my favorite character. I think her character has evolved the most through the three so far. I'm not sure where it goes from here, but um, I think the people who read the first book and are not fans of the way she and other women are portrayed, I think it was more of a long game, or at least so far. That's kind of the impression I'm getting, that she's gaining power, not losing it, or not staying static. She's growing and becoming more powerful.
she's one of the maybe 5 most powerful people now on the warpath, maybe the second, but she could definitely wear boots now if she wanted.
Yeah. She's having people flayed in public. I mean, she has some kind of power.
Yeah, and she's going through the debates on her old self and her new self, like the appearance of power, what her words could do. I think she talked about that might have been in the first 4 chapters. How words can get people killed, and how her words could, but where before they couldn't do anything but coax men in. Even now, she still, when she's bored, measures up all the guys in the court.
Measures up.
It is awesome to see her grow. She's probably the only person that has really became more powerful. I guess Gellus, because had power over nothing, and now he owns everything. But so did she, and now she believes Gellus can rewrite the religious scriptures to allow whatever he wants, as if he could be just write her into heaven, kind of. Just like Zenimus thinks that he should be able to write him some eyeballs. He's really that powerful.
Yeah, I mean that is interesting because now it seems that Zynemus is one of the few people in the entirety of the Holy War who does not believe that Callus is a prophet, because he was not able to give him his eyesight back. And it's interesting because I think we know from before that Zynemus was very religious. So you would think that maybe he would be one of the first to become a believer, believe in Kellis. But I mean, we also learn from Akamian that he's changed because of the ordeal that he suffered at the hands of the Scarlet Spires. Apparently, they rewrote some of his wires, so to speak. So I wonder if that's one explanation, or if it's that he's just become so self-absorbed that he doesn't have a place for a prophet in his life anymore. He's kind of lost his faith, I guess, after the experience with the Scarlet Spires.
Yeah, I think he's real disillusioned and in despair and as drunk as he can be all the time. And still smelling everybody.
Didn't smell the truth.
Yeah. But he can also see tears of God still, right? He can smell the truth. He can see tears of God.
I don't know about that. Maybe.
He said he could. When they were sneaking him back into, what's it called? He's like, I can see the Corey.
Did he? Okay, I forgot about that.
But it might be in the way that Akamian can see the Corey. Like, he can't see the Corey. It's like a metaphysical seeing. Like a feeling. So maybe that doesn't require eyesight. Maybe it means Zynimus is one of the few he could maybe learn magic. Who knows?
Maybe. I'm a bit skeptical about that, but
I'll never say never until it never happens, and then I'll say that I knew that.
I think he might be a little bit old to start learning magic now, even if he was one of the few. And I don't think he could magic himself a couple of eyeballs either, because not even Akamian or Kellis can do that.
Who is the youngest character in this book currently? Confus, who's maybe 25?
Of the main characters?
Just
I
anyone. Think of the youngest person.
Well, I think Surway was the youngest.
Oh, yeah.
But now,
That was.
yes.
Same with Enrao was.
I think Confus and Pro, yes. I think they're approximately the same age. That would probably be the youngest protagonist.
And who's the oldest person?
Kellis, right?
I think
Akamian's a lot older.
Is he older?
And there's older people than him.
40. Well, it says in the book, I think. At least in Darkness, it gives you the age of the main characters.
Oh.
But Akamian's like closer to 50. Kellis is 33. What a coincidence.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah.
Sweet Sejanus. Esmenes in her early 30s. Well, I guess the emperor would be older as well. What some of the well, we know Skeos is apparently was extremely old, as well as the empress.
And the Synthese, if that can be considered a person.
True.
The prologue of the very first book, where there's a guy that's like talking about how he had seen so much. That guy might be old too.
Is it?
Are you talking about the non-man?
Yeah, he
Okay.
seemed like he might be older than Acadian.
You might have seen some things. I did. There's been something I've read that's been mentioned a couple of times that I was curious about. I'm not sure if either of you can confirm or deny, but they mentioned a lance, and I wondered if that was like the spear of destiny. That's some kind of, or if I'm just looking too deep into it.
There's many references of the Heron spear. This
Mm-hmm.
like it talks in these chapters about the sagas and how in each of the sagas it's written by a different person and only two of the authors are known. And Seth Swatha is not the main character, not even like the good character in any of them necessarily, but he's kind of the hero of the whole thing. And in the very last chapter of the sagas, it talks about how Siswatha had the hair on the spear, and he was the savior of the some of whatever. But it was interesting how all the different like each saga viewed him differently. Some thought he was
Mm.
just like an outright scoundrel. Some of them thought he was the hero. Some thought he was like a mischievous, conniving guy. One thought he like was a wussy because he ran away right when the battle was about to happen. It was just all the different views of history thrown upon this one guy that Acadian has terrible nightmares of every night. Like this one of him crawling through the some kind of tunnel in the gutters of Golgotha, it said, when he was dreaming as Silnomus.
Yeah, that was confusing because it seems like the ship that fell from the sky, or the ark,
Arc. Yeah.
the ark, uh, it seems to be underground.
It said that it cracked the mantle of the earth.
So maybe it's in a crater of sorts.
Yeah, something like a burrow. I think in the very first book it talks like Acadian's talking about the evil place and how when it appeared it changed the landscape around it drastically. It like threw mountains up where there were no mountains before.
Hmm. It must be huge. But we don't. We don't really get from the dream sequence. We don't really get much of an idea of why they're there. Well, there seems to be like is some suggestion or hint that the Seswatha was made. What's the prince's name? Cayutas? No, Cayutas. Something
Yeah,
No. Yeah.
uh, that he drew him there under some false pretenses. He told him something that wasn't true, and that's why they're there, or why he's there with him.
something about a girl. I feel like he
Yeah,
says, "Is she here?" And then that's kind of when he wakes up or something like that. I assume it's above him.
yeah. It seems like Siswatha told Coyote that Coyotes that there, yeah, that someone, I don't know, a lover, a friend, sister, I had no idea.
He
Is
said,
it?
he asks, but she's here. You said yourself.
So it does sound like either she's there or he got her there under false pretenses 2,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago. Who knows how many years ago?
Well, so it seems like Siswatha is a sneaky guy.
And you also can tell that when Akamian finally decides that he's ready to teach him the gnosis because he learned the non-Mankoya language in a week, and he's already taught him everything he can teach him. And then he tries to speak the words and he can't. This Seswatha is a tricky guy, I guess. But Kellis is trickier because he knows how to hypnotize people or something. Seems like hypnotization,
it
right?
was very strange and very, I don't know, it just went a little bit too smoothly for my taste. Like, can you just hypnotize people like that? I don't know. I never tried hypnosis. Maybe it's that easy.
I thought you had to be quite like gullible and willing, and I don't consider Akamian that gullible or willing. But I think hypnotization is somewhat true. There's some truth to it. I even might know someone who like used to speak with a really like loud, shrill voice, and they got hypnotized to not speak in a loud, shrill voice, and it kind of worked.
I've seen people get hypnotized and they claim it's legit. I don't know. It was hilarious, but never had the pleasure of it happening to me. So.
Well, it clearly worked for Kellis, so maybe just Dunyan hypnosis is something completely different. We don't know.
Way cooler than we know. Some ancient technology, lost technology,
but Kellis is one of the few now. Well, I mean, he was before, but now he has the mark.
He's unable to carry a Kore to protect himself. The first thing he wanted to learn was the cant of calling,
which was an interesting choice. Do you have any theories as to why that would be his choice of a spell?
I wish I did, but I did wonder because when Akami is teaching him, it seems like he's holding back a little bit because he hesitates when Kellis asks him about the further inaudible strings, and Akamian kind of plays dumb, and so that surprised me a little bit that he is not teaching him everything. So, is that fear, or is that, I guess, is that fear of what could happen to him personally, or is I wonder why teach him everything but not why hold back?
It was interesting, and it's basically just like an old rumor that the Mandate have, because supposedly one of the really old original like creators of the Mandate maybe knew something like a third inaudible string, which is, I guess, is just attaching dual meaning to a word with another meaning, maybe.
Maybe. I thought it was something closer to like thinking two things at the same, maybe it's the same or related. Like you have to be thinking two things at the same time and also be saying a third thing simultaneously out loud.
Something like that.
Yeah. But I mean, regardless, I don't think that's something that Akamian can teach him. Like, it's not something that Akamian himself is capable of.
It was interesting that he held it back, though, and obviously he didn't hold it back, because that you don't hold things back from Kellis. Nobody holds anything back from Kellis. He answers your thoughts. You don't have to even ask him the question. So Kellis more than likely knows that there's a third set of strings that Akamian for some reason doesn't want to teach him.
Well, maybe he also learned about that during the hypnosis. Oh. I don't know.
great point. Who knows what he learned about during the hypnosis or how he hypnotized him. All I know is when he came out, he seemed like to want more than anything to say the words. Because it said they just came right out of him. Like they were involuntary spasms. You didn't even want to hold them back anymore.
Yeah, you don't see Callus expressing emotions very frequently, or at least emotions that seem like they're coming from within, that they're like genuine emotions. But I did get the impression that he was genuinely excited to start doing magic. Or maybe he was just faking it to make a commune proud or good about himself, about the fact that he was the one teaching Callus the gnosis. I don't know. Hard to tell with Callus.
So I wonder who Callus is going to call with his cants now that he knows. Or why he wanted to know that first, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, you can only call to a place that you've yourself visited, that you know very well. And I don't think there are many places where Callus stayed. I mean, most of the time they've just been traveling from place to a place.
He must
So
have like an eidetic memory, though, right? It appears as though he does, because he recites things he's only heard once after like 5 days, even if it's like a report on grain stocks. Even the most insignificant things are shelved away for him somewhere.
In the memory bank.
It never says that he has like eidetic memory or total recall, but it
yeah,
appears as though he does.
you're probably right. But then,
So
yeah, no, that's a good point. But I don't think he's really visited that many places of importance.
yeah,
Like,
and it takes a compass as well, right? Or like it takes two people. One
yeah,
person has to be the person to stay, and then the other person can call in and find you if you wait long enough and sleep a lot.
yeah. But then we know that Moengas was able to call on the Junyane, even though they were not sorcerers, as far as we know. So maybe that's something. Maybe he wants to just ring back home and tell his old Junyane friends how he's doing with his assassination mission. I don't know. But I mean, when you like think back to like all the places that Callus has traveled through or where he stayed, Ishwal, what's the name of the city? At Erithau, the city up north. Etrithau. I don't know exactly. It starts with an A.
Yeah, it's after that.
There were like, and then maybe Momem or the places that I can think of that he would have any reason communicating with, or where he might have someone he might want to talk to.
Moingus.
Yeah, but he's never been to Shaima, so he can't call Shaima.
Maybe Moingus isn't in Shaima.
Maybe he's going to try to do a cant of calling to the outside, where he was when he was on the circumfix. Try to talk to whoever was yelling at him when he was there, going crazy, feeling sadness for the first time in his entire life. Pity. What was it he said? Was it pity? No, it wasn't pity. I think it was sadness. He was sad Sarah died, right?
I think so, yes.
Maybe he wants to talk to Saban.
There was no Sab. I was very happy that there
I
was
know.
no mention of Saban in these
I had
chapters.
to. I had to at least mention poor Saban at least once.
You know,
Hey,
he's back in Coruscant. Um,
happy. He's one of the
He's
only happy people in this book. Leave him be.
can't, I mean, does he strike you as someone who can actually be happy?
He's
I
the
think
king
he's
of the
happy now.
castle. He only wanted it. That's all he wanted.
His empty castle, and he's kind of like in shame, right? Because
Wouldn't go with
he was
Dallas.
told and he didn't leave, and now he's kind of just like at least he's like shunned, I would guess. But oh, speaking of, they did mention Daybreak. Was that Akamian's mule?
Mule.
It is dead. They did
Yeah,
mention
and
that.
he's got a new horse
Yeah.
he calls Afternoon, I think he called it.
Maybe, yeah, something like that.
Sunrise? It was something like that. Something
Yeah,
to do with waking up from a terrible nightmare.
so no, we held out hope that the mule was on a farm somewhere with a happy family and enjoying grazing all day long, but it's not the kind of story. So
No, it's not that kind of story. So
But
I guess we're lucky it didn't get eaten by someone.
I was just going to say we're probably lucky that he did get eaten by someone who fed a couple of hungry soldiers along the warpath. But maybe he just rotted away somewhere.
yeah, I was hoping.
Nothing rots away. Some animals would eat him. Synthes cover. Some real crows.
Maybe some shrank will come by and clean up.
Was it in this book where they were talking about, is it seagulls? Just how terrible of a bird they were? Well, they'll just like eat anything.
Was that in the last book? I think it might have been in this last book, right?
I feel
Well,
like
they
at
talk
some
about
point
they talk about some birds in this book. I forget what birds they mentioned.
they would like eat anything that would fit in their mouth. Eat their own babies. Eat.
Well, I did find it funny that New York calls the Sinteef just bird. Like,
Yeah, bird.
get out of here, bird. You're a fool, bird.
You think Mir's word is going to get through to the Synthes? It appears as though it might have, judging by the last couple pages.
Yeah, I felt like he did get through, or maybe maybe it wasn't even Nayor's words, but it seemed like they were starting to realize that Callus might pose a larger of a threat than they originally thought, because they were so focused on Moengas, which is sort of a new information. Like we knew that the consult was interested in the Holy War succeeding, but didn't really know exactly why. And here we learn that they know about Moengas and they want to get rid of Moengas because he's representing some kind of a threat for them. Though I don't think we really know what that threat is yet.
And they don't call him Oangus, do they?
I think in the conversation with Nayor, I think they do talk about Moengas, or did I get it mixed? Or was it a dream? There was a Moengas somewhere.
I think Noir mentions Moengus to the bird, right? And then the bird tells him he's being a fool, he's being short-sighted. I think is that what happened, and then they go back and forth a little bit.
I think their enemy goes by a different name, but might be the same person.
Well,
it goes by a name we've seen earlier.
Dunyan.
Consorting with the king.
Oh.
Yeah, it was something like Malahat.
Malahat,
something like that.
You both of you are. You've done a really good job not spoiling the. It's just like being very vague because I can never tell if you really can't remember what happened, or if you're just trying to like pretend you don't remember. So I can't tell. So you guys are doing a good job.
I'm happy to hear that. Um, we do sometimes lie to you,
No,
just so you know.
I know. But on the last page of chapter 8, um, it does say, mad the Skilvendi might be, but the testimony of events could not be denied. These done Yane.
Yeah,
Well,
it seems like he's like thinking of this whole thing as a game of Benjuka. There's new pieces on the board, and he needs to at least understand the way they move so he can fight against them. Like he's fighting against Moingus, because he knows a little bit about him. Seems like the information is really powerful for the consults. And now that they've lost Skin Spies, they've lost a lot of that information gathering power that they've always had over everyone else. That and their secrecy. Both are kind of falling away from them.
I don't have anything to add to that.
So anything else either of you can think of for this one? It seems like well, there was a lot revealed in the 9 sagas, right? So we did learn a lot there. There was a lot in those few pages at the end.
Yeah, it
Or
was a.
not the end, but in that chapter.
I think, or like, it might have, like, it might help you. He's kind of been dropping bits here and there from the histories and from the sagas. I feel like here we got a bit of it's like a more structured summary of the history of the apocalypse. So hopefully, if you feel like you're struggling or you don't really understand what happened in the histories, this might maybe help you piece those things together. But I did feel like that chapter we just spent a lot of time with Esminette reading about her reading.
Learning about all of that for herself, which I guess kind of helps the reader learn since she's learning and understanding for the first time. Kind of made the first apocalypse come into clearer perspective. Even though it was so long ago, no one remembers it except for a Gamian and some old bird.
Bird.
Yeah, and it's nice, or it was kind of interesting to see how there seems to be a common knowledge about the apocalypse even among like lower caste people, but then no one apart from the mandate, no one seems to take it seriously. It's just like for most people, like the first apocalypse is just ancient history. It's something they don't really think about or don't think about as a threat or something that could happen again.
And it seems like her experience with the Camian almost makes it more real to her too, because she's like heard it all before, but it never came into clear perspective. Whereas most people probably have never heard about it until they read it. And that Camian kind of lives a first-hand account. He's like wakes up crying about it every night, and she just thought he was weak.
Yeah, and you know that if someone will write a book about the second apocalypse, she's probably going to be one of the main characters in that volume. And we kind of know that someone has already written a book, at least about these events.
About the Holy War.
Yeah.
The Second Holy War, or the I think the second apocalypse, right? Because there's been um, sections from Acamian
That
throughout
was
the
the,
first few books, right?
I think it's called the
That's,
tractate, the compendium of the First Holy War.
yeah, that's the
what it's
compendium. Which
Oh,
I'm sad I'm sad he changed the title from the original one. Which what was it supposed to be? Varieties of Awe or something like that.
Yeah. You stole my title. It was supposed to be Varieties of Asses.
oh yeah.
Because before I lived with men, and now I dwell with asses.
Yeah, compendium of the First Holy War sounds a lot more boring.
Definitely a historical text.
Yeah.
Then we had a little battle. Naird lost a war and got poked with a bunch of dull ends of spears until he submitted. It's got to be real shameful for him.
So yeah, what did you think about Naor raping Confess? Like that whole scene was very intense.
Wait,
And
Nair doing what?
assaulting Confess?
I thought that he just like choked him with a belt. Maybe I need to read it again.
Yeah, he did bend. Well, I was gonna say he did bend him over the table, right? And I think it was implied that he was about to, or he at least was, he threatening to, or he could have. I don't know. Did he do it, or?
Well, it's not stated explicitly, but there is very strong implication that that's what happened.
That was a
Well,
great scene. Well,
I guess
not because of that, but it was a great.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the tension between the two is amazing. The end result of that scene, obviously, it's pretty horrific. No, but there's so the next morning, the morning after, Nayor is he goes to a bathroom and he's washing himself and he says there was like there's the mention about there being what does he say exactly? Something like
all right, I
blood and
remember.
soil on his thighs, which
Oh.
it's not it's not so subtle, but it's not stated like directly that that's what happened. But
Yeah, he's like blackout drunk, wakes up, doesn't understand what happened.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's maybe like it's unclear if Nayor remember. Well, I mean, I guess he does remember, but does he want to remember, or does he acknowledge that that happened?
I guess we'll get some internal monologue by them and try to deduce. We'll see how Compass feels towards Nair when he talks to him in the next couple chapters, probably.
Yeah, we will. But then, I mean, then again, Confess is someone who is very good at making things appear favorable to him, even if they're not.
To himself.
Yeah.
And then the Holy War marched up to a city, and I guess Kellis talked to them and talked them all into turning themselves over, and then there was mutiny that night. And they all got killed. And what did he say? I'm counting the days until you guys surrender.
Yeah, that was very ominous. I don't know. Well, I guess he's playing some psychological games with the inhabitants of the city.
He's being biblical. He's just trying to be biblical now.
I mean, does he not have the forces to just storm the city? It just seems like they got stuck there for a suspiciously long time. I mean, at least Esmond I got some time to read, but you know, why not just get on with it and start marching to Shima?
What did Kellis say? Everyone wanted to do that, and he stopped them and said something.
Well, I think they wanted to attack the city, and he said that they should be patient because I guess they don't have the numbers, maybe. I don't know. He gave some explanation, but I wasn't convinced.
Thought I had that tabbed. Where hopes burn bright, patience is quickly consumed. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think that's the quote, at least, or at least a part of it. But it just seems like such a generic, callous thing to say. I mean,
There's a part where Akamian's thinking, and he says, he saw nothing of Kellis, though he spied something, a point of fluttering black hanging over the distant network of streets and alleyways that rose up into the haze. He blinked, frowning. Was that the mark he sensed? A sorceress bird? And then the people shut up and he got distracted. But that was weird. Akamian almost caught a sorcerer's bird and then got distracted.
I actually, I think I missed that. I missed that part. I didn't. I have to go back and reread it. I didn't see it.
There was something in this chapter that was. Hopefully, I'll remember to bring up like 4 books from now.
Wait.
But not until then. This can't be brought up. But it was super interesting.
So we have a few months to go there.
Yep. I'll probably forget it by then, but maybe not. What were you guys' favorite quotes? Any good quotes?
Let's see.
I had one from Proyas, surprisingly. It's not particularly nice quote, but he has this like very like short speech about what it means to be a man of the Holy War and how to sort of burn the bridges. And he says something like, let me find it. The nations of our birth no longer command us. The customs of our fathers no longer command us. Our blood has ceased answering to what has come before. Destiny, not history, is our master. That's pretty cool.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I had that one tabbed too.
I had another one from New York. Basically about ignorance. I think it's from New York. He says, ignorance was ever the iron of certainty, for it was as blind to itself as sleep. It was the absence of questions that made answers absolute, not knowledge. I mean, New York had kind of an interesting journey through this chapter as well. Like, it seems, I mean, I guess he's always going back and forth between like thinking of himself as a Skilvendi and then sort of realizing he's not one of the people. And it seemed like maybe in these chapters he finally reached a point where he acknowledges that like I guess it's somewhere like he's somewhere in between where like he acknowledges he's beyond the customs and traditions of the people who brought him up, but at the same time there's still something inside him that has like responds to them or has to follow them, that it's not something he can completely get rid of. And then he's probably going to be always torn up between just abandoning the traditions completely and following them. Like it's not something you could just tell yourself you're not going to do. Like it's so deeply, I guess it's so deeply internalized. Like he spends a lot of time thinking about that. And yeah, I did find that interesting, that he's like always going back and forth between being of the people and not really being or wanting to be something more than just a skilled bendy, because you can see how limited their ways are.
Yeah, trying to like break the chains that bound him to tradition without thought. Like the question why was what broke him. Just asking me the simple question of just why. Like, who does that? 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds? Why? Why this? Why that? But then doing that cultural beliefs can rock a foundation. Where I live, I see that happen quite often, where the church is pretty powerful, and when their beliefs get shaken, they can become crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to be the only black sheep in the tribe. Like it's hard to tell people, you know, our traditions are stupid. I'm gonna go and do something else. Like, of course, you're going to get ostracized for that. Which I guess is the reason why Nero spent most of his life trying really hard to follow those traditions and those social rules. And I mean, he still felt miserable at the end. So, like, no matter what you do, like there's not really a happy ending for him, I think.
Yes,
Like
their way now,
no
though.
matter what he does, he always feels miserable, it seems.
He has their way now. That's his prize. He's got his prize back.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Was there a part in this where he like had a nightmare? And like all of the people he killed came back, his uncles that he all killed for calling him a weeper, a faggot, whatever. All the bad things they call him. His crippled wife. And a whole bunch of other people came. I kind of forgot exactly what happened in that dream. I think they yelled at him bad things. He
Well,
woke
I
up.
think there was Moangus in that dream. I think he finds Moangus in the white. Yeah.
And his consort is all his wife. Yeah, alright. I remember.
And there's some blood, but I don't think it was clear why, like what Moangus is doing that caused there to be blood. But I wasn't. I didn't really know why. Like, was that if that dream was supposed to signify? Like, was it supposed to? Is it just about the past? Like, I mean, we know that Moangus has sort of destroyed Nayor's life and kind of maybe a little bit responsible for Nayor killing all those people, and also Moangus might have killed some of those people himself, directly, indirectly. Or is that some sort of premonition? I don't know.
Speaking of premonition, there was a part where it came in is about to teach him the gnosis and all of a sudden 2 candles kind of fluttered out at the same time and then started back up. And the game was like, could that be a coincidence?
There are no coincidences, it seems.
Or everything is a coincidence. Never know.
Never know.
Oh. I thought this quote was good where it says, the Anani had a saying, breaking enemies not bred made brothers, but being broken, Acadian realized was more potent still. That's pretty hardcore. Makes sense. Like when war vets come out, the camaraderie ship they still seem to have. And then there was another one that said, history, logic, arithmetic, these should all be taught by slaves. And I thought that was fairly astute, too. Rich people don't know how to manage money as good as someone who has to manage their money. It's a strange world that that's true, but if you take economics now, I think they teach you that debt is a good thing. It's good to be in debt because then you have credit and you can just pay off that debt and get a bunch more debt. And you can't get credit unless you get a bunch of debt.
Debt is good, I guess, huh?
And inflation is necessary. Yeah. But when I was a kid, I thought you saved money and you worked hard, and then after you got $300, you bought a Super Nintendo. You saved money and you worked hard. And you save money and work hard for something else. It just seems that it's all changed.
For games, for that Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then there was another quote that said, of course, we make crutches of one another. Why else would we crawl when we lose our lovers? That was pretty hardcore.
I mean, I guess that's supposed to refer to a commune and Esmonette, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just reflect back on funerals. People just fall over because grief is too much for them. Their crutches are gone.
Sorry, I did not mean to laugh. I don't know why I found it funny. I thought you were gonna say that people make literal crutches of each other at funerals, which doesn't make any sense at all.
So we've been reading this book for too long, right? Making crutches out of dead bodies.
I mean, I can see the Shrang doing something like that. You don't need too wild of an imagination, I think.
Their shields are made out of it. They, I think, just burn a whole bunch in a fire pit for fun.
Yeah.
The non-men had an entire cape or suit made of faces, some kind of faces, stretched flat.
Yeah, that was one of the most memorable parts so far. It's a tough image to forget.
What do you know about the non-men? Steve, anything? Just that they know magic and one of them can beat Kellis, maybe?
Yeah, unless I'm missing something else.
They also were involved in the wars from the sagas somehow, or before the sagas even. The Inkarai Koya Wars, I think that's what it's called. I don't remember what the initial wars were called. But there's some really old wars that involve them somehow.
I hope we see them again before the end of this one.
Poker face.
I'm gauging their reactions to see if one of them will budge.
Soon enough, you'll learn. Soon enough. I'm not gonna say if that's 2 months from now, 1 month from now, next week, but soon enough.
I would imagine before the end of this book, but who knows?
We certainly don't.
Okay.
Read
That's
and
your
find out.
prediction. We're gonna learn a little bit about non-men before the end of this book, huh? That's a new prediction.
A little bit more. I would say we won't learn everything, but we'll learn a little bit more.
I'll look for it.
Okay. Cool. So next week, 9 through 13. So we'll see. More chances to learn about the non-men.
Yep,
True.
sounds good. Let's see if we meet some non-men.
We'll see. So Daniel, if people want to, where can people not find you?
Just in the comments section of this video. Yell at me if you'd like. Tell me I said donkey instead of horse or mule, or any number of things I got wrong. Said Moses was Jesus.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure I'll get lots more wrong.
Oh, I'm sure we have. Yeah.
History's pretty jumbled in my head.
And Katerina, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Page String Forum, and I'm also on Instagram at The Errand, and I started posting some pictures from Jordan, where I went on vacation. So if you want to see some pictures of the desert and the sea, and well, I don't have many pictures of Crusader castles, but I'll try to post those as well.
Are you going to make me reactivate my Instagram account to see your Jordan pictures?
I can just send them to you.
Okay. Okay.
Page
Great. Cool.
String
So,
Forum.
yeah, I could do that. There's a travel section for travels. Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll be posting some of those there.
Looking forward to it. So I wanted to say thanks to everyone who's been listening and either on the podcast or on YouTube and commenting or letting us know you're reading with us. It means a lot that you're supporting it. We're having a lot of fun. So thanks for hanging out with us. So we will talk to everyone next week.